Hello, welcome to GusMcDoll Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. In this series, we play through the 16 operations of the German Grand Campaign in Close Combat 3, the Russian Front. Please remember to subscribe, comment, share, and like the video. And if you want to show your support with a donation, the links are in the description. It is day 1 of 7 on Operation 8 of 16. German Operation Star, January 30, 1943. The 6th Army in Stalingrad is doomed. Reconnaissance reports the Bolshevists are massing tanks and infantry. Intelligence indicates the Soviets will attempt to break out and drive for the Dnepr River crossings. Your objective is to delay the Soviet attack until reinforcements can be brought forward. Your new command consists of whatever troops are left of Kampfgruppe Kempf. The frozen ground will make digging in difficult, but will make cross-country movement possible. Use the hilly terrain to your advantage. Battle Briefing. Operation Star, the push to the Dnepr. Stalingrad is lost, but that does not mean the Bolshevists have won the war. Intelligence suggests the enemy is massing for a drive toward Kharkiv. Your objective is to stop the Russians before they can get started. Your command is attached to Kampfgruppe Kempf. Because of the losses at Stalingrad, the units from which you can select are limited. Consider adding a command vehicle to give you mobile firepower and improved command and control. You'll want to add anti-tank firepower, but don't waste anti-tank rounds on infantry. Save these for the tanks that are sure to come. You can sweep the battlefield north of the river from the 2 ridge lines in your possession, but the enemy can cover the first ridge with fire from the hills in his possession. Don't ignore your south flank. The frozen river can be used as a tank route. The odds are against you, but skill and determination will pay off in victory. We start the operation with the same forces from the last battle. Von McDowell, Command Panzer 4F2. Group Leader, Kommando Behorden 1942. Heavy Infantry, Fallschirmjäger Sturmgrenadier 1942. Heavy Infantry, Sturmgrenadier 1942. Another Heavy Infantry, Sturmgrenadier 1942. Machine Gun Infantry, Maschinengewehr 42. Another Machine Gun Infantry Squad, Maschinengewehr 42. Medium Tank, Panzer 4F2. Medium Tank, Panzer 4D. Heavy Anti-Tank Gun, 8.8cm Flak 36. A second Heavy Anti-Tank Gun, 8.8cm Flak 36. Anti-Tank Carrier, Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251-10. Another Anti-Tank Carrier, also with a 3.7cm pack. And a medium mortar 8cm Granatwerfer. No vacant slots, 50 requisition points remaining, and no refits necessary. That is Kampfgruppe McDowell. Let's examine the terrain and develop a plan. East of the Dnepr River in Ukraine, the village of Shmela sits on the road from Krasnograd to Kupiansk. The village is nestled amongst north-south ridgelines leading to a river to the south with thick woods on either bank. West of the village, a stream runs from the hills down to the river. It is January 1943 and the whole area is covered in snow. The river is frozen over. I have marked 5 areas. Number 1, Hill 229 and the ridgeline to the west. This ridge is the tallest feature in the area with a commanding view of the village and nearby ridgelines. It also controls movement along the road from Krasnograd. Number 2, the village of Shmela, consisting of 1-story wooden buildings. The village provides some concealment, but little cover, although nice warm places for the troops to sleep during the cold nights on the Eastern Front. Some fighting pits are dug to the east of the village. Number 3, Hill 226 and the ridgeline northeast of the village. A track runs along the ridgeline to the village. A number of fighting pits are dug in on the forward slope, facing east. The ridgeline offers good observation and fields of fire to the east, and terrain shielding to the village, which sits to the west on the reverse slope of the ridge. Number 4, Hill 227 and the Ridge, in Soviet hands. The eastern slope provides the Soviets with terrain shielding against observation and fire, and is a likely forming up point for vehicles. At the southern end of the ridge, a pair of buildings sits along the road to Kupiansk. Number 5, the ford across the river leading to Golkov's house. This is the vulnerable right flank of the German position. The river is frozen, so passable to vehicles and infantry along its length. A series of fighting pits face east, either bank of the river. Key terrain are the ridge lines, which dominate the area, and the ford over the river. Decisive terrain is the village of Shmela, which controls east-west movement along the road. Avenues of approach for the Soviets include across the ridgeline and through the forest following the south bank of the river. I assess the enemy will attack. I expect that Soviet tanks will attack en masse from Hill 227 across the open ground in the north, to take best advantage of the mobility and long lines of fire in the open fields. Attacking all at once will maximise the firepower they can bring to bear against their front. Their immediate objective will be the village of Shmela. Their subsequent objective will be Hill 229 and the road to Krasnograd. At the same time, I expect Soviet infantry to attack through the woods to the south. This attack will take advantage of the cover and concealment of the trees, and the shorter engagement distances. The infantry attack will support the tanks as the main effort, and seek to encircle Shmela. Meanwhile, Soviet artillery will pound any static positions into submission, including fixed artillery and infantry. Alternatively, the Soviets could avoid the open ground and instead conduct a slow but steady assault through the woods. Infantry would close to contact. Once German positions were identified, the tanks would move forward and either fix by fire or overrun the positions. The Russian infantry would then move forward to consolidate the position and continue to the west. Control of both sides of the river would allow the Russians to choose where and when to strike north, to seize Shmela and cut the road. This attack would outflank German defences along the ridgelines and turn the German line. An attack from the south would make any defence along the ridgelines untenable, forcing the Germans to withdraw. The Germans are in defence against the Russian attack. The first option for the Germans is to mount a linear defence with the 8.8 cm anti-tank guns positioned forward with the Panzer IV F2 tanks along the ridgeline of Hill 226. This would control the ridgeline of Hill 227 and the area between the two ridgelines. Infantry would form a block position either bank of the river, using the existing fighting pits as cover. This would prevent, or at least slow, a Russian advance along the river. Most of the platoon would be in linear defence, but with a single squad in reserve to the west. Meanwhile, the village would host the mortar, and a commander's reserve and counter-penetration force consisting of the Panzer IV-D and the two half-tracks. This force could defend Shmela, attack to the east, or move south in support of the infantry. They would only be committed at the decisive point of the battle. This plan maximises firepower to the east and provides command flexibility. But it lacks depth. A Soviet penetration by the tanks in the north, or the infantry in the south, could cause the entire position to collapse. The second course of action is a linear defence similar to the first. The key difference is that the 8.8 cm anti-tank guns will be held in the rear, around 300 metres west of Shmela. This would provide the guns with some protection from Russian tank direct fire and artillery indirect fire. But their range will allow them to engage any Russian armour cresting Hill 227, less than 500 metres away. And they can cover the entire low ground area between Hill 229 to the west and the ridgeline of Hill 226 near Shmela. The Panzers will also be held back on the reverse slope of Hill 226. From here, they can engage any Russian tanks that make it to Hill 226 or counterattack when the time is ready. The disadvantage of this approach is that it largely relies on the Russian attack being stopped on the ridgeline of Hill 227. The advantage is that fewer German forces are exposed to Russian fire while still providing the same defensive effect. And the anti-tank guns provide some depth by fire along the length of the German position. False. Cross defiles directly. Correct. Use a defile to exploit a change in direction. Von McDowell is thankful to have extracted his Kampfgruppe from the Stalingrad meat grinder. And just in time. The fate of their former comrades from the 6th Army has infused the Kampfgruppe with additional energy. No one wants to trade places. They do not know it, but of the 91,000 captured, only around 6,000 would survive Soviet captivity. Word has come down of an impending Soviet attack, and the rumble of tanks has been heard getting closer by the hour. Overnight, the soldiers slept well in warm billets in the little town of Shmela. By morning, they took up their fighting positions, ready to stop the Russian assault, at all costs. I have now moved my troops into position and will execute the plan in real time. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the various courses of action and if you have identified a viable alternative. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And so we begin. To the west, the 8.8cm guns wait in ambush positions on the ridgeline of Hill 229. To their south, the road from Krasnograd and the frozen river. Further east, the German infantry in fighting positions in the woods either side of the ford. In the centre, the village of Shmela, with the commander's reserve and counter-penetration force. To the north, Hill 226. Achtung, Panzer! Both anti-tank guns target a T-34. Hit and destroyed a T-34 flame tank. The crew bail out. The guns now target a Su-76 light tank. The tank is damaged. And destroyed. The tank brews up. It seems the Russian tanks have attacked over open ground, as expected. The German mortar engages the Russian tank crews.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
Russian infantry in the woods. The mortar switches fire. Another tank crossing the ridgeline. Another light tank. Hit and destroyed. A T-70. A T-34. Hit and destroyed. The 8.8cm guns are making short work of the Russian tank attack.
Ложись!
Не высовываться! Спасите меня!
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
To the south, the Russian infantry have recovered and are on their feet, advancing through the woods. They do not know what awaits them. The Russian infantry are a little over 50 meters from the German front line.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
To the north, the German guns have halted a T-70, Su-76, T-34 and T-34 flame tank. The Russian attack seems to have stalled. Time for the counterattack. Rain in the Panzer IV-D now plots a move forward to counterattack and split Russian forces. The tank moves along the road to avoid getting bogged.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The Russian infantry resume their advance, perhaps mistaking tank engine noises to the north for their own.
Прикрытие!
Ambush! The Russians catch half a platoon in the face with mortars.
Противник предложил прекращение огня. Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
The intersection secure, Rain now moves along the road to Kupiansk. Achtung Panzer, a T-34. Rain moves behind cover and targets the T-34. The T-34 moves up the ridge
Wir sparen Munition.
into the sights of the 8.8cm anti-tank guns.
Противник предложил прекращение
Ребята,
огня.
спасите меня!
Stellung eingenommen.
The T-34 Flame is immobilized. Rain advances to catch the Russian tank in the rear. Hit and destroyed, the T-34 is knocked out by the guns. 5 Russian tanks destroyed. Rain advances and secures the road to Kupiansk.
Находимся под огнем!
Gebiet gesichert. Ziel ausgeschaltet.
And brings the reverse slope of Hill 227 under fire. Schickner in the half-track now plots movement forward to get behind the Russian infantry. As does Schellenberg.
Кровь!
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
Major victory. The battle ended because the Russians fled the battlefield. The Germans gained control of the area and the operation is over. The operation ended because the Russians routed. You, Herr von McDowell, gained 2 campaign points. Your group commander urges you on to more and greater victories. German forces suffered no losses in men or materiel. Russian losses were 4 killed, 9 wounded, 3 prisoners, and 5 tanks destroyed. And von McDowell has been promoted to Major, the highest field grade. German losses in the campaign to date have been 16 killed, 23 wounded, 1 prisoner, 3 tanks destroyed, and 3 tanks damaged. Russian losses in the campaign to date have been 150 killed, 124 wounded, 58 prisoners, 30 tanks destroyed, 7 tanks captured, 2 guns destroyed, and 1 gun captured. Let's examine the Kampfgruppe. This battle belonged to the anti-tank guns. Obergefreiter Baumann in the 8.8 cm gun receives the Iron Cross First Class. His friend, Obergefreiter Ohlmeier in the other 8.8 cm gun receives the War Merit Badge. Well done both. Baumann's gun crew accounted for 3 tanks, with shared credit with Oberkanonier Buhlmann. And Ohlmeier's gun crew accounted for 2 tanks, with shared credit with Gefreiter Hannemann and Kanonier Wendlinger. Morale, leadership and experience up across the Kampfgruppe. So, what did we learn? Clearly, the importance of the 8.8 cm anti-tank guns in stopping Russian tank attacks. These guns are accurate even at long range, and 500 meters was not long range. So, if possible, protect the guns from enemy direct and indirect fire. And give them long lines of fire and overlapping fields of fire. Each time a Russian tank crested the ridgeline, it was swiftly engaged with 2 high-velocity rounds at a time. Doctrinally, German anti-tank guns would be positioned forward of tanks to ensure range overmatch. Enemy tanks, seeking a tank-on-tank engagement, would be drawn onto the anti-tank guns and destroyed. In this case, the anti-tank guns were physically behind the German tanks, but their fire reached out in front of the German tanks. This achieved the doctrinal effect without putting the guns at risk of counterfire. By the time the Russians detected the anti-tank guns, it was too late, and only 1 Russian tank responded with ineffective machine gun fire at range. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.